screens, and Linda,
I think we
Linda
heard
should
you.
hear it. Linda,
That's my accent.
Yeah,
no, unmute yourself.
I'm having a little trouble with the earphones. I don't have to use them, but it helps me hear people who are speaking softly.
Okay, can you hear me?
check
Linda,
one,
can
two.
you hear me?
Say it again.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Testing
but I
one,
hear
two.
you on the computer.
Okay, can you use the computer tonight
Yes,
rather than
I
the
can.
headphones? Okay,
right.
Linda, you're the last one for attendance. Are you here?
I am here. In fact,
Okay,
David, I am all here
good. And you can hear.
and I can hear.
All right.
You're here.
So first order of business.
About the people with the video on.
Oh. Julie, can you turn your camera off unless you're speaking?
Thank you.
Who's LS?
Liz from the Valley News.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay,
And she's already got hers off. She's got.
all right. Okay, first order of business is P 25-02-01. Copeland Block Enfield LLC. Jim Kelleher is seeking major site plan review to convert non-ground floor space into a multifamily residential use at 56 Main Street, which is map 31, lot 28. Subject parcel is owned by Copeland Block Enfield LLC and is 0.25 acres. It is located within the community business CB zoning district. Rob, is the application complete in your view?
I feel pretty good about it. You guys can check it all out, see what you think.
Okay,
Obviously, it's a existing building there,
it is.
and there's very, very little exterior change proposed.
That's
Would anybody
all.
else like a big map?
All into, I think, I'd like to have one. We can put it between us, Dan.
You got plenty of.
Or maybe Phil and I will share it.
Sure. Okay, I'll get one for Eric
And Eric and Dan can share one.
Eric. Everybody gets this. This is Chris Ross, you guys know.
Yeah, Chris, you're presenting?
Yes, I'll
Okay.
present about this.
And Jim is here.
Jim is here.
Hi, Jim. In that case, I will open the public hearing. Chris, thank you for coming.
Yeah.
And I don't believe any of us have had an opportunity to review your application in any detail. So would you be kind enough to tell us exactly what you want to do and why you want to do it?
Yeah, happy to do that. So on our application, there are two sheets, both 24 by 36. Sheet A1 is just presenting the existing conditions for the site. So Main Street, Copeland Block itself, showing major site elements, entry exits to the driveways and how to get on the lot, the river, all the meets and bounds and everything on the existing conditions plan. And then on sheet 2, we outline the changes to the outside of the building that we'd like to make. So the big thing here is that the office spaces will be transitioned to residential units. Level, and then the restaurant on the main floor will remain a restaurant. So we're mainly focused on renovation work. Very light on the upper two floors, just because the layout's fantastic. It's beautifully renovated. A lot of that's gonna remain, and it works very nicely to fit 3 residential units on level 3 of the building and on level 4 of the building. The floor plans will be very, very similar. We don't get into that here, but anyhow. And then there'll be a basement unit. Most likely all these are gonna be 1-bedroom or studios. And then what we've done with the change of use, we've shown some upgrades to the site. There'll be dumpster enclosures in the back, and the dumpsters will be slightly repositioned. There'll be a little bit of new planting around the propane tank and along the riverbank. That was restabilized a little while ago and cleaned up by Jim on the side of the building, the north side of the building. And then, so little improvement there in the very back. The exterior stairs are gonna remain. They're covered, well finished, very well done and up to current standards with the rise and run. There'll be a new basement entry point. It'll just get a little freshen up with a roof. It says entry to unit 1 on the site plan I presented there. There'll be a storage entry there. There'll be some new, just like striping and edging incorporated into the parking area, just to delineate it further and allow for 8 spots, because it's a little gray as to what is down there now. There'll be snow storage continuing in the same spot, which is the southwest corner of the building. And then 8 parking spots and then some new plantings probably. Again, just to firm up some of the edges. Street side will remain an entry point. It goes into a vestibule. You're presented with 3 doors. 2 go to the restaurant and then 1 goes upstairs. So that'll be that entrance, no changes there. And then down below, there'll be probably little roofs over those lower level entry points. But that's about it in terms of updates to convert the building on the outside to a residential use. And again, 7 units are planned, spread across 3 different floors, restaurant remaining.
I will also point out, Dan was great to come in, pop in to see me last week. You guys will recall, there is exemption for parking between High Street and Oak Grove for commercial use, but not for residential. So they are designating these spots for the residential use, the 8 spots on the plan. So I think that would satisfy that. Obviously, it's gonna be a little bit of a challenge, I think, for parking, because he still is gonna have the restaurant use there. So.
There's a,
You can squeeze.
yeah, so we might be able to squeeze a little bit more than this, although it's pretty tight in the back to provide proper access for the dumpster pickups. The site plan here is a little bit misleading, just with that lot line isn't quite like that. The one hugging Davidson's building there. It's farther out, actually.
Yeah.
So, you know, we don't have as much opportunity
Right
as
here.
this presents. Yeah,
It's more
it's
that
pretty,
here.
it's
Yeah.
pretty tight.
Yep.
So, again, the best we can do for that corner is to just properly enclose the dumpsters as per the regulations.
Yep.
Provide
Yeah.
a little bit more curbing at the street side. And then along the stone wall, this pointer is really quickly here. So this is all like pretty much the same treatment surface wise. There is paving here on the roll down, the topography here. There'll be a little bit more work here in the corners and then along the wall and then in this corner. And then here is gonna remain most the same, a little bit of work here, and then the dumpsters are here and the large propane tank is here. So a little bit of improvement on the site, but with some signage and notes, it works great. And all the entrance points are illuminated. This egress stair is ceiling recessed lights. These are wall sconces outside these 2 doors. This will be residential. This door over here will be into the storage and mechanical rooms for servicing the building.
Is this lighting, exterior lighting existing or new?
It's there. It'll just get an upgrade because the wall sconces are broken, but
Okay,
it's there.
and you're aware of the town requirement for
Full
cut off dark sky?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is good. I've heard 7 parking spaces, 8 parking spaces, and I'm seeing 10 on this plan. 7 in the big parking lot and then 3 somewhere near the dump.
This is the existing conditions.
Yeah,
So on my sheet, I illuminate the whole thing a little bit more clear. This is the existing conditions plan. So there's really no spots that where you see 3 in front of the dumpsters, that can't happen. And then the 7, there's just where the text says electrical meter right in front of the transformer. If you curb it and slide spots over, you can get 1 additional spot right close to the building. And basically in front of the transformer. The snow storage area becomes planted a little bit, just like low shrubs or whatever. And then right where it says electric meter, that's your 8th. So you have all 8 will be in a row. Head in parking like this. We might choose to angle, but head in works great.
yeah.
And the big thing to know is the 3 in front of the dumpsters that would never fly.
They disappear.
So they're not, that's not true. So there's
Mhm.
eight along the retaining wall on the street side.
Does the dotted line that goes between the building and Davidson's, lot line, does that represent your river setback?
Yes,
Okay,
I would say it is true.
and that number is, you got it? Uh,
50 feet.
20 feet.
river,
River from
Well, yeah,
the
but the
river.
building's existing.
the building is existing, right? So we can't move
You
that,
can't move.
but the dumpster has to maintain the setback
Right.
to the river.
Yeah.
Right, it does. Yeah, I've been down there.
I
Yeah,
know it does now,
right.
and I just wanna
But
make sure.
he's gonna move it this way, I suspect, because you can't move it the other way.
That's correct. Yeah, it has
'Cause you
to.
can't get the truck in there
Right,
if you move
dumpster
it the other
can't
way.
move back any further back because there's a sewer,
Right.
main line there that
Uh-huh.
the town uses to clean out.
Yeah.
So we certainly couldn't push it forward, but not backwards.
Right.
Got it. Board members, any other questions or comments on the plan?
Looking at the CV district, how does this square with the zoning requirements from?
Multifamily is allowed in the CB.
Don't see that and.
It is.
Yeah.
Pulling up for it, I'll say, I'm reading it.
I'm reading 401.4 CV district and. Item A, 1 family, 2 family dwellings, accessory dwellings and units and manufactured homes on individual lots. I must be missing.
Go look at special exceptions.
While he's looking at. I
Go
got a
ahead,
question
Phil,
about
you got some
snow,
questions.
snow removal. Where is the snow gonna go?
It's, right in the inside corner, like southwest corner of the building, that's a pretty decent sized space for snow storage. Then the parking spaces in front of those, there's a little bit remaining, there will be a little bit remaining there, because we can easily get a 2-way, we can do our traffic scheme in and out, just because of how it's connected to the other lot with the surface that's there, because that will be changed, crushed gravel. or like hard pack.
At Blacksmith Alley is,
And then, there's like a little, peninsula that sticks out right when you turn in.
Mhm.
So it'll go, there's
Special exception.
basically like 3 spots. And then if we're like super pressed,
trucks and all.
yeah, shovel it out.
Blacksmith Alley is maintained by the town.
Jim,
Yes.
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 okay.
Blacksmith Alley's gonna push some snow in there as well. Now, a big snowstorm is you're probably gonna have to haul some snow.
Our DPW would never block a driveway.
So it is under special exception, yeah, I would say.
Yeah.
that's-
Family dwellings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you will have to go to the zoning board and ask them for a special exception.
Is there not already multiple housing on the upper level?
No, it's all
No,
office,
It's all
I
office.
thought they had already had some housing.
No,
not in any recent memory.
no.
So also, I think, while I believe the parking as envisioned meets what we're proposing at town meeting. Doesn't conform with what's existing.
It does. 401,
It does conform,
multifamily is one per
One.
unit.
one per unit.
Per unit, okay.
That should
And if we give him if we make a decision tonight, contingent upon receiving a special exception, it will be under the zoning ordinance as it exists today. Not what it might be 3 or 4 weeks from now. Anything else, Tim?
As exterior lighting, if, would you be willing to keep the light, color down below, 3000 K?
I don't see why not. Pretty easy with light fixtures and stuff these days.
Do it, you can adjust whatever you want.
Yeah, a lot of it is adjustable. Is that gonna be adopted by this town and further clarifications?
We might,
Okay,
that's why it's just an ask.
just curious.
But if you agree to it, we'll put it in the decision.
Light temperature?
Light temperature,
Yeah,
everything will be LED.
and then like 3, instead of like super blue, like
Be a warm
30,
color.
32, 3000.
Not the bright white, but.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay,
Some LEDs can be like, it's, the wattage is really low, but the lumens is like blinding. So.
anyone else?
So just the procedure wise, an applicant can either come here first and get a conditional approval or something he needs, either a special exception or variance. Or they can go to the ZBA first and get, it doesn't matter either way.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Oftentimes people will go to the ZBA first. Because if the ZBA doesn't grant them a special exception or a variance, the project pretty well ends there. In this situation, the applicant has opted to come see us first, which is perfectly acceptable under any rule. And, hopefully the ZBA will grant him a special exception to convert to housing. Seems pretty straightforward and not controversial to me, but
Well, that's not our opinion. Isn't it?
it's not up to us to say. And our ZBA can oftentimes surprise us. Bill, you had a
Linda
question?
has her hand up.
Who has a hand up?
Linda.
Linda, okay, go ahead, Linda. Thanks, Bill.
Do we need to ask about a handicapped parking lot? I mean, certainly floors 3 and 4, it's a moot question, but with the basement apartment, it could have a handicapped person. Do we need to consider that?
I think it would probably be whatever ADA requirement is.
Right.
Which in this case, off the top of my head, I'm gonna guess is 1. And that would probably have to be the space closest to the building.
So lower, so, we have a little bit of space next to the building on the west side. I show one spot currently there that has a bit of a buffer around it. We could widen it. That could even be van if we needed to,
Mhm.
and, the lower level basically at grade.
Yeah.
The door, so, yeah, it can certainly be either, an adaptable unit or a fully accessible unit, along with appropriate parking for them.
Chris, what's the size of your parking spaces?
These, whatever the regulations are, these are the wider ones. This is, I think the town is a
10 by 20.
We have 10
10
we
by
have 10
20,
by
but it-
20 and also have seen.
Nine.
I think we did
9 by
9.
18.
So the 6-unit building nearby, just built, I believe that went down to 9.
I believe it
To
did.
accommodate,
Yeah.
that has more parking than's required by a few spaces, including a van space.
Mhm.
And there, we squeezed it down to 9. These are 9 by 18. These are 10 by 20.
Yeah, that's fine.
Is that gonna be formally written up as a, cause there's a bit of a.
Yeah, there's gonna be an article on this year's, town meeting warrant, which will eliminate that confusion if the town decides to pass it.
Okay.
Linda, does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, good. Any other questions from board members?
I got a question. It's sort of a weird question, but I don't know if you can answer it. The retaining wall between the sidewalk and the parking spaces.
Mhm.
It looks like your property line's on the opposite sides of where the wall would be.
Yes,
Do
true.
you know if that is your wall or is that state wall, town wall?
That's my wall.
Yeah, well, you get to fix it if it.
Yeah, because I'm thinking of, it's kind of, a granite wall and sloped,
Mhm.
like whatever, real retaining wall that can pick up
Yeah.
another 6 feet of parking.
Yeah, no, it's been a while since I've been down there and it didn't look like it was in danger, but it was like, if it becomes a problem, who gets to pay for it?
Yeah, because, like I said, if I put a vertical retaining wall up and I gain about 6 feet.
Oh, okay.
Any other questions from the board? Comments from the board? Members of the public, any questions or comments?
Well,
Could you state your name for the record, please?
Richard Holmquist, I own 67 Main Street.
Thanks, Richard.
Having a 9-car parking lot myself, I receive a lot of overflow from the abutting businesses without permission. And taking up sometimes my tenant lease spots that are renters in Michael Davidson's apartments. Because they don't want to park all the way down in the back of Blacksmith Alley. I'm a little bit disappointed here. Is there any town parking on Blacksmith Alley?
In theory,
I,
in theory, there is, because it is town property.
But not in the winter.
And there's no overnight
And
parking.
there's no overnight parking
right,
on town property. So anybody who parks down there could be ticketed on the town portion.
Where do the employees of the restaurant park and how many are there? And, you know, the trail parking is what, 9, 10 lots at the most? So I can tell when the restaurant's open because the street fills up, the parking lot fills up, and I see people cruising up and down
Mhm.
Main Street looking for a place to park. They often go into George's. They have been filling up, the laundromat parking space, which is pretty soon not going to be available. And so I'm at, for 14 or so years I've owned my property. I've always had issues with people poaching my parking space. And it's a bit frustrating. I put up signage, I call the police. I go out and nicely ask them to move. They often get confused that it may be trail parking, which I noticed today isn't actually, the trail parking isn't clearly delineated as trail parking, just as parking. So, as a business owner, having my own parking, I'm a little bit frustrated that Copeland Block has only 7 or 8 lots, and they're gonna take them up with these family housing units. And it's only gonna make downtown even worse.
I hear you. We have a parking problem. Chris, can you answer Mr. Holmquist's question about where do restaurant employees park? Or where will they park?
Where are they?
When the restaurant is open, the owner, the cook, and one of the waitresses actually park up against the dumpster and on the side of the, because at nighttime they don't have to worry about having access to the dumpster. So that's where they park. My parking, just like Richard, is taken up by, and if I go down there on any given night, there's 2 or 3 people who are renting from Davidson parking on my park.
Yeah.
Because I've got 6, 12, 13 commercial office spaces. There's only 6 of them occupied. It's not a big deal. I'm not out there calling the car because, that everyone's got a place to park. But it's, if I get approval here, I'm gonna have to, put more signs up and designate that these are not community parking spaces.
Mm-hmm.
You might be best just putting the apartment number there, so
Right.
everybody knows.
Yeah.
That's my space.
Well, I've got a few signs that says
Right.
parking for Copeland Block, and
Yeah.
I've had somebody spray
Oh, yeah.
paint it and box
Yeah.
there from 1%.
If you recall, at our site plan for the 6-unit apartment building he's just constructed, that Kim Quirk was at that meeting. She did say that she could work out a private arrangement with you if you wanted to for space at her
Yeah.
place, which used to be Revision. I think she's taken the Revision sign down. It's back to the Energy Emporium. That's just a couple of doors down. I think she's got, obviously she'd probably work a deal with you if you wanted to.
Yeah, she's got at least 10 spaces behind her shop there.
Yeah.
All paved.
Yeah.
Richard, I know parking has been an issue ever since I've known you. And I don't know that there is a quick and easy solution other than perhaps you put up more signage and maybe it has some threatening language like violators will be towed at their own expense. And, talk to our police department and see if they will enforce that.
Well, I have attempted some of what you just said. Actually, I have called the police. I have, again, gone out and, because I'm often at the building into the evening.
Mm-hmm.
And, I can hear vehicles pulling. And so a couple of, I have actually more parking than I need, generally. And so here's one of the things I've racked over several scenarios. One, put up a parking meters, and actually earn some revenue on people that are parking in my space, but then it's a difficulty of enforcing people actually honoring that. 2 is, shutting my parking lot out, barricading it so it's only gated
Mm-hmm.
for my use. I see that as the extreme. But it's, I mean, the police are great, but this is a minor issue. I'm sure their jobs are needed elsewhere. And I don't often know I mean, they can look up the license plate, I suppose, and figure out where the residents live. A thought that's come to my mind is maybe the town would like to lease my parking lot with some terms and monies to be determined at some point.
That's a possible solution, which you would want to talk to the town manager and the select board. And/or Eric, who should he see first?
Ed,
Ed, yeah.
town manager's you're right.
So that, that could be a suggestion. That you have a few of your spaces that are leased out currently to,
3 currently leased, and I have some equipment and lumber on 2 more
right,
spaces. I thought that would be short-term storage, but it's been a little bit longer, but I have 9 spaces.
Mhm.
It's a little bit of a blind and exit kept coming out of my parking lot. I often leave the space that's closest to the monument and the street open, so I can actually get out without getting T-boned by the people flying up Main Street.
uh-huh,
That's a big issue, actually. People come flying up Main Street pretty quick. The other concern I have is just is a business, is downtown, is a historic business district, this seems like it's gonna be a pretty significant change. Taking, the Copeland block, which is beautiful. I mean, I've always admired that building, and turning it into mostly residential units.
that's kind of market driven at this point. And I know there's been vacant spaces in Copeland block probably ever since I've been in town, as far as the office space on the upper floors go. And I know the parking situation is gonna get worse once the brewery opens, because they're gonna generate a bunch of traffic. And I don't have an easy solution. I think it's something that the town is gonna have to look at.
David, I was recently made aware that there's a sandwich shop or a coffee shop opening up in the old,
Yeah,
hardware store.
yeah,
Parking is at the very back of Blackwater, whatever the street's called, that alley. They don't have any parking on the side of the building. And, so that's gonna be another, we got the brewery, we've got, the restaurant, which is a modest usage, but even the restaurant by itself, takes up most of the downtown parking.
Yeah.
On the parking issue, Rob, do you still have the parking section in the ordinance handy?
I can get there. 409.
It's,
It is far.
page 49.
Almost there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, as you pointed out, this section in, 2, multifamily, 1 space per dwelling. Drop down to 4, you've got a section called parking serving multiple uses. I didn't go through that table because it's confusing. It's one of the reasons why we want to change this. What I'd like to make, though, is that with the restaurant, that does complicate things according to the existing regulation. I would suggest that since you're going to the ZBA for a special exception on having the apartments, that You also look down at number 7. Scroll down a little bit further. Right there. Special exception may be granted from these requirements for parking for new uses and structures that predate the adoption of this ordinance. I think you should go for a special exception for that as well.
For parking?
Yeah, and that way, if the new parking regulations don't pass the town meeting, you're queued up to get a special exception to do what you're wanting to do.
Can I ask a clarifying question on this? Because I'm
Sure.
trying to digest some of this as well. In the community business district, if we go to 4014V, trying to understand what that means in relation to what Tim was said. It's page 19, it looks like. So up a bit. So it's V.
Right.
Within the downtown area defined as those properties abutting Main Street and Blacksmith Alley between High and Oak Grove Streets. Lot size, development, and the placement of non-residential mixed-use structures are exempted from dimensional, with the exception of building height and parking requirements. And so does the language of section V here mean that they are already exempt from parking requirements?
Yes,
Yes.
commercial,
Absolutely.
yeah, they're already exempt. In that 2 to 3 block area.
Does that clarify for you, Nate?
I think, yeah,
Yeah,
if,
it does.
I'm
It
just,
doesn't need a
that's the, I
special
read it
exception.
as they were already exempt
They
from
are.
parking.
Yeah,
requirements.
they are.
Okay. And I don't, does parking requirements in that context mean both size of parking space and number of parking spaces? Or just number of parking
So that's
spaces?
debatable. I
I
think
would say-
we've always interpreted it as number of spaces.
Right.
Using the 2 definitions that we have of a correctly sized space.
Okay. So,
You agree, Dan?
Oh, yeah, if that was,
Doesn't change the definition.
doesn't change the definition
Right.
at all.
Changes the regulation, not the definition.
Right, exactly.
all right, so, okay. So a 10 by 20 parking space would still be needed for whatever parking they are providing here, because that is the prescribed space size in section 409.
Yeah, except if you, there's other spots in the ordinance where it says 9 by 18. That's where the
So
problem
it
is.
could be,
That's where part of our problem is we gotta unify it better.
Hopefully we'll get that fixed at the town meeting.
Right.
Well,
But they have 10 by 20 on their plan, so.
They got 10
That's a
by
blue
20.
plan.
but they-
Yeah.
well, they, yes, it's, I didn't quite catch what Mr. Ross
Yes.
had said. I think originally he said 10 by 20, but then maybe was hedging towards 9 by 18 if necessary.
So
Is it 10 by
That-
20 for the 8 spaces that are proposed?
that's correct.
Okay,
It is, right?
so you're good.
Yeah.
he's good, absolutely.
Yes.
It doesn't help the situation for the businesses, but according to current regs, businesses are exempt from any parking requirement.
Right.
Which means we have a parking problem. And, you know, from my personal point of view, I think it's something that the town needs to look at and try to figure something out. I don't know if it's possible to figure something out, but somewhere there's a creative solution.
And the new parking regulations don't really
No.
address, it just simplifies the. Only this one, to figure out what applies and what doesn't.
So is it sort of the understanding of the board and Rob as staff that a special exception is needed for the multifamily,
Right.
use of the
Right.
building
Yeah.
in this location,
Yes,
but not the parking?
Correct.
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 I would agree.
Yeah, we're on the same page as far as that goes. Any other questions or comments from the board or the public?
See if anybody's on.
Harry?
Harrison Trumbull. I just had a question. I didn't quite understand the discussion on that handicap.
Yep.
So one of these 8 spaces is designated for handicap. It's about place.
Yes,
Yes,
We can,
for a tenant.
yeah.
The only possible tenant, the handicap spot would be the basement apartment.
Correct.
correct.
Yes.
So if you had a tenant that needed a handicap spot, you could put up a sign. But it seems like to have the sign up there all the time, and you have to have a non-handicap tenant is a waste of the space. And it's a precious space.
I think ADA requires a sign to be there all the time.
Yes.
Chris is nodding his head yes.
We did that. That's the case over at, just down the street.
Right.
In the 6-unit building down the street, the rail trail apartments. Just down,
Because
down the way.
it could be a handicapped visitor.
Yeah, you can do that, yeah, yeah,
Right.
exactly, that happens. Yeah, just because there isn't.
Just because there isn't a handicapped person doesn't mean there isn't a need for a handicapped space.
Yeah. Exactly.
Not that that space is gonna do a handicapped visitor a whole lot of good,
But it has to be there.
but it has to be there.
That, yeah, I mean, it seems like if someone in a wheelchair wants to go to the restaurant,
Oh, no.
that's not gonna work for them. It's really.
It's not.
Oh,
Is there a handicap designated spot in the town lot across from the restaurant?
yes.
Yes,
Yeah, I believe so.
So that would be where a wheelchair patron of the restaurant would park.
It seems like you should allow tenant to park there unless you have a handicap tenant in the basement, and then it would be designated for that particular tenant. But maybe make that space enumerated for apartment, whatever the number of that apartment is, apartment basement. I mean, it just seems like an odd place to put a public handicap spot and a waste of very precious parking space.
Logically, you're correct. And I think the hang up is the federal ADA requirement. And, you know, who knows, maybe that will get thrown out next week. Along with everything else thrown out. But, you know, we deal with the regs as they exist tonight. And if they change, then so be it. Anything else? In that case, I will close the public hearing and the board can deliberate. Anybody have any questions or comments? Somebody want to make a motion?
I make a motion, we approve the change of use for map 31, lot 28, with the condition that they receive a special exception for multi-family, and that they delineate a handicap space, and that they have a lighting on the side of the building at a maximum of 3,000 lumens.
Not lumens, color temperature.
Color temperature, I'm sorry.
I'll second that.
All right, motion has been made and seconded. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, we will do a roll call. Starting with Linda, who is joining us remote. How do you vote, Linda?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
Phil?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Nate?
Aye.
I vote aye. Alternates are not voting tonight. Motion passes. You have your site plan approval with 2 conditions.
Great, thank you.
Thanks for coming in, Jim.
Wonderful.
And Chris.
Thank you very much.
When do you expect to be able to do the conversion?
I've got, tenants there. I've got a hairdresser on the third floor, Enfield Channels on the third floor, tattoo guys on the second floor. I don't have any intention of throwing anyone out.
Mm-hmm.
I could probably, after we go through zoning, shoot for, put two in right off.
So you'll do them one by one as leases expire?
Yeah, in the basement, I have a woman in there, Patty Castellini, does, she prints watercolors and, she may be in there for another 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
so. I know if I can get two apartments in there, it, certainly makes up for having 6 empty.
Absolutely.
The, Copeland block, yeah, I mean, years ago, the residential was
Right.
was on the second floor. And the third floor was the, Oddfellows hall.
Okay. Thanks again for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was a interesting discussion we had parking. That could lead us to, but.
No,
Thank you. It was a good exercise, just to chew on that.
Yeah.
Bill, yeah,
There's some innovative ideas out there. We had a discussion when we were working the brewery. We could run a shuttle up and down the rail trail down to the Lutheran Church parking lot. And they could load people up, take them up to the brewery or the restaurant. Then they could run back, get them. Who's we?
I think it seems like a really odd, like the obvious land that's owned down there.
Yeah.
Just with minimal money and investment and upgrades and discussion with the town works. There you go, street parking. I think it'd easily be 28 feet wide or 30 feet wide and have parallel spots. So
yeah, it could happen.
the whole backside of, I mean, a lot of it, you just have to be careful with like introducing new surfaces, but wherever there's gravel, start a conversation.
Sure. Well, there's also another 25 parking spaces that nobody ever talks about.
Yeah, down at the far end,
The
yeah,
Depot
the
Street.
depot, that's true.
Mhm.
And it's all really walkable.
Right.
Gotta get a couple rickshaw guys.
You know, but-
Out of rickshaw business.
Yeah.
It was interesting. I sometimes I listen to the meetings on YouTube on my way home from work or whatever, just through the sound, just listen to.
Yeah.
And I think, was it at the recent select board meeting that the
Yeah.
chief was kind of giving an
Would
inventory?
anyone like to guess how many
Yeah.
town-owned parking
Yeah.
spaces there are on Main Street?
I abstain.
I'm saying 8.
On Main Street from
From
Route
Route 4 to the bridge.
To the bridge.
8.
48?
I'd say at least 30.
200.
200.
200.
Yeah.
Between Hughes Park, Whitney Hall, Depot Street.
Lutheran Church. Down at the Lutheran Church.
But there's no official spot there yet.
Okay.
But then Lakeside Park, there are 200 town-owned parking spots along that 1 mile stretch.
You just need to
That's a
move
lot of
around.
parks.
There's more than we think.
We need signage.
Exactly. The consistent signage, if you had a green P with a circle around it or
Well, that's
something
it.
that was consistent that meant town
Yeah.
parking and put it in
Right.
each of those locations, it would be very clear and consistent.
We talked about
Where,
doing
where the
those
parking
codes here.
exists.
And,
But nobody wants to walk to it.
Right.
But-
I thought you said on-street parking.
No, not
No,
on
no.
Street Park.
Okay.
No, just
In that area.
Yeah.
within, that does include the on-street parking right in front of like 56.
Yeah.
Main, but there are only 7 or 8 of those.
Right.
Mhm.
There might be additional opportunities to look at Main Street, the space on Main Street, and look at where additional striped on-street spaces might be.
Oh, yeah.
When the regional planning had their little evening charrette, you were there
I was with my daughter.
with your daughter, junior planner.
That's right.
My suggestion in my wildest dream was to make Main Street one way with diagonal parking. And then have your entrance at the soon-to-be traffic circle at Jake's. And then the hard part is the other end, which would be Oak Hill,
Oak Grove,
Oak Road,
which should
which
be
is,
one way,
which is falling apart.
which should be one way anyway.
Pretty sure, one way, one part of it.
Isn't there slope stability, significant
Yeah,
slope?
that's
stability?
why I'm saying you ought to make it one way.
So, that's my wildest dream. But it would add an awful lot of parking to the downtown area where it needs to be.
Or you can buy George's.
What?
Probably cheaper just to buy George's.
Don't say that.
Yeah. And I don't think there's anything we proposed in the new parking regulations that I would change because of this discussion. It seems like what those do is they give a lot more flexibility for us to basically kick the can down the road. Otherwise, we'd be denying
Right.
applications like this.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just let the thing become a mess and then you have an impetus to fix it.
And the often unconsidered thing is, you're never gonna have as much parking as people want in the exact location that you want it.
Right.
So you build a
Right.
community that is walkable, that is bikeable.
Yeah.
Right.
You make it so that people don't have to drive and park there.
Mhm.
And that's what we can functionally do.
Right.
That will help with getting people around downtown.
And you don't make that parking lot rail trail parking. You put a 2-hour limit on it, and so people can't leave their car there all day, and your rail trail becomes Depot Street.
There's
Because that's on the rail trail.
a lot of different.
Yeah.
Different things that can be done, but
So
Right.
who leads that initiative?
well, so we can sort of get into the select board report.
Yeah,
Let's do the select board
Yeah,
report,
so-
Eric.
So we had a meeting full of public hearings, around water bonds, watershed managements and SB2s. And then, NHDOT presented and took feedback. They had an alternates discussion on the picture up there, which is the potential new bridge at the end of, Shaker Boulevard at the end of the lake. And then we had a few other things, but one of them was downtown parking discussion. Various town employees along with Eva went through, and that's how I know there's 200 spaces because they counted them all. There are some other challenges, like we have 3 parking ordinances which conflict with one another. So the select board has to take that on and
Mhm.
sort that stuff out. And then like Roy, Chief Allen suggested some things like making some overnight parking. And allowing, maybe in a few spots, allowing that, which would help some of this. And then just discussion around, how do you promote it and sign it and make it work? But so right now, it's sort of a combination of, Ed, Roy, Rob's involved, to some extent, DPW's involved because they have to be able to maintain and plow it. And so they're actively having discussions around sort of parking downtown holistically.
Good.
So if there are ideas, any one of them would be sort of the avenue to put it forward at this point. And Eva's taking they're being very supportive and helpful, sort of trying to get some ideas inside and stuff. But right now, yeah, that's sort of where it is 200 parking spaces, all within. Well, most people, like if you were in Hanover, you would not object to the walking distance from any of those spaces to a restaurant.
Right.
Yep. So,
Probably not.
so there is something that we could, there's an opportunity there with what we already have, is I guess what I'm trying to say.
We just have to develop it and
Right.
publicize it.
Right.
So if let's say we got an application in for one of the apartment buildings between the Copeland block and George's or another restaurant on the ground level. I think what we know from tonight's discussion is that parking's exempt,
Correct.
so you just continue to add to the problem. Which is, I don't see another way around.
Well,
But most of those
we
buildings-
continue to add to the problem, which is impetus for the select board and DPW and all the folks that Eric just mentioned to come up with some alternatives and bring them forth for the town to discuss. Or just do it by executive fiat.
So just like the coffee shop has that parking behind the building, do those other buildings have parking behind them?
The residential buildings
Just like the office, the commercial buildings that are right there.
is some of them, I believe, do and others don't.
Okay.
It's a hodgepodge. It's a real hodgepodge.
With those buildings, if you're going, functionally, if you're going to require parking, you're not going to allow the building to be used.
Right.
Yeah.
The exemption was put in to bring commercial
Right,
to downtown.
right.
The only way you can bring commercial is to not have a parking.
Yeah, and that passed town
Yeah.
meeting. so
And that past town
knows
meeting,
that.
oh, yeah.
Yeah. And if anybody who's been on the board here for 5 or 6 years, maybe longer,
Yeah.
remembers, not 56, I think it's like 64,
Yeah.
when Davidson wanted to convert his 2 front
Yeah.
units in one of those buildings
Yeah.
to residential. He had to really scramble to come up with enough parking spaces to add 2 more. And somehow he finally did it legally.
Right.
But it was like pulling teeth. So, you know,
I'm telling you, no, you can't put parking spaces between the buildings where there's really no place for that to be a parking space.
and you can't put a parking space with a telephone pole
With a
in the
telephone
middle.
in the middle of it.
Can we chew on this just a little bit?
Sure.
Sure,
I know it's kind of out of sequence.
it's okay. I think we're having a good discussion.
But it's
and-
the area we're talking about for zoning
Yeah.
in the eye, and there's top 2.
Exactly, Dan. And what I wanted to bring up was, this is the CB district, and this goes, pretty sure it goes up Route 4 a ways too, and then out towards Canaan. And
Yeah.
Then it becomes the Route 4
Right.
district.
Yeah.
Hopefully that will all eventually be the CB district, but, I think we really should have a separate district from Route 4 down Main Street all the way to Oak Grove. That is the different commercial district that will eventually be the Route 4 business district. And primarily because of things like this, we can address all kinds of issues on Route 4 with commercial properties that we can't here.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of have that special carved out area, at least as far as the parking requirement goes for commercial.
Yeah.
And, you know, when we get to actively diving into our zoning rewrite, we may decide to say, well, it's a separate district, or it's an overlay district, or some sort of, way to differentiate it from the rest of the CB commercial.
Well, so does that idea have a little bit of traction? Does
Oh.
that seem reasonable?
Well, considering that it sort of exists now.
Right.
I mean, the signage.
You gotta
requirements
expand
may
it
be
a little.
different.
Aside from parking, what are you thinking?
Well, all right, so the kinds of things that you would want to permit on Route 4. Like, we need a new car wash, and it really would be helpful in town. You wouldn't want to put that on Main Street. Okay?
Right.
There are things on Route 4 you wouldn't want to see on Main Street.
Right.
And so I think the zoning regulations in Main Street should more focus on that. There may be some historical issues that you want to weave into that and so forth. The signage might be another one. signage could be very different on Main Street than what it is on Route 4. That sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, there is a Route 4 district today, which, you know, recognizes that Route 4 is different than the rest of the community.
Mhm.
business
But it
district.
only goes up to. Put your cursor on it, right in there. And that's towards Kane. The rest of it's the CB.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it sort of depends on what your vision of the Route 4 area is in the long term.
I don't.
You know, I think the Route 4 district, when it was originally conceived, was, you know, that it was gonna be a mixture of uses, closer to the road and walkable and, you know, I think there was a feeling that as soon as the utilities got put in, that there was this, you know,
Massive
waterfall
massive
of
development,
development
right.
that was gonna be coming in and people wanted to get ahead of that. That didn't materialize.
No.
We got a
obviously.
Dollar General and a car
And
wash.
what has actually happened there is commercial strip type of,
Yeah.
you know, development. And is that, if the, you know, if the vision for that section of Route 4 is more commercial strip type of development, then, and we can put some guardrails around that, the character of that is still very different than the character of the rest of
Right.
the
CV
the
district.
CB
Yeah.
district. So it, you know, kind of lumping it all into the CB district kind of means that you want to bring that section of Route 4 to develop more like the rest of downtown is.
That's not, I don't see that as practical because it's a higher traffic area. And it's, you know, it's already has its character as not strip mall, but
Yeah, it hasn't developed that way.
It hasn't changed.
it is what it is, and I don't wanna make the mistake of creating a set of zoning regs that envision something that's not what's actually representative of what's on the ground today.
Yeah,
Right.
sure. So, you know, does it make sense to have a different framework for that area because it is different
Yes.
than
Yeah.
the rest
Yeah.
of,
Yeah,
In other words, leave it like it is.
or amend what it is into something that, you know,
Cause we
more
were about
reflects what,
to,
yeah.
or would have, had we had a. You know, we almost had a warrant article that folded the Route 4 district into the CB district.
Right.
And with what you just said and thinking about it further, that was probably not a great idea. So we've got two commercial districts in town, Route 4, CB, and I'm suggesting probably a third, Main Street. Because I really think even the CB district from the Baltic Mill, essentially where it starts, and on the eastern portion over up Dry Bridge Hill away, is a very different commercial environment than what you have on Main Street.
Mhm.
yeah, definitely.
And as you point out, Nate, it's even different from what's out on the western end of Route 4, or the eastern end.
Mhm. Well, I think the idea of eliminating the Route 4 district was to get rid of the,
Form based.
well, thank you, form-based
Yeah.
requirements. And in our discussions, it just seemed easiest to extend the CB or eliminate the Route 4 district and have it revert to what it used to be, which was CB.
Where what you may want to do is rewrite what the Route 4 one is,
Yeah,
Yeah,
to put it to what you really want it to be.
to what you really want it to be.
Because it is
Exactly.
different from any place, any of the other, you're right, it's different than the rest of the CB district. That's the only area in that CB that isn't developed at all. I mean, that there's places you can develop without tearing down what's already there. There's open lots. I mean, yeah, one of them's in the floodplain where Raphael's was,
Yeah, and
but it's still open.
it's back lots too.
It's back lots.
Away from the, away from the
Exactly.
core.
Those structures that,
Shouldn't be there and should burn
right,
down.
right, I mean.
Yeah.
They outlived
Pretty much.
the building has
Right.
outlived its
They're-
use.
Yes,
Functional obsolescence.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
just structurally
there's
the
empty
building is
garages.
questionable,
Right.
Yeah.
so.
I think this is the sort of discussion that is gonna be good for that community forum.
Absolutely.
Yes.
You know, what do people in town want that area to be? Because when the Route 4 district was conceived, people did not want that to be 12A. They were,
Right,
that was the
exactly.
big
Right.
concern.
It
They
was-
did not
it
want
was-
that to be big box stores and.
It was
and, yeah.
put in not to what's gonna be there, it's what we don't want to be there.
Yeah, so and, you know, what is the town's current thinking? It's years later now.
Yeah. What is it, like 15?
That was probably 2011.
2011,
Something.
yeah.
Like that, with Route 4 district.
Yeah.
So, you
14
know,
years?
close to 15
Yeah.
years later.
Close to 15 years later, it's,
I would think that the town might have a different idea.
So all of those form-based provisions, the square footage maximum for building footprint.
yeah.
And the maximum setback from the road to bring things closer to the
Yeah.
road, that was all so that you wouldn't have a sea of parking to a big box store.
Right.
That everything was gonna come closer to Route 4, it was gonna be walkable, it was gonna be, mixture of uses. And yeah, it hasn't developed that
that
way.
was we don't want a Walmart, but we want.
But that's
a
not to say that if you went to the town, they would say, we want a big box store, you know, we
No.
want 12A there. They may still want some of those same principles, you know, as
Right.
guardrails around what actually
Yeah.
happens there.
But have we had a developer who wants to put a commercial establishment in, who looked at this form-based code that we have and said, no, I don't want to do.
Yes. Rob says yes.
Yeah.
And he's been saying yes for at least the last
Yeah,
4 years.
I know.
yeah,
How many are we talking?
At least say half a dozen that I've talked to.
Now, are these like small business intentions for small businesses where people don't have a lot of capital?
Not necessarily.
Like that?
Not necessarily. A couple of them are much bigger developers.
Okay.
So we actually had Eric Chinberg here
right.
a year ago. Of course, that wasn't the only thing that washed him out on that project. Was the other thing was the access issues that were presenting themselves.
What do you want to do?
Housing.
Housing up
Well, I'm not
behind.
talking about housing, I'm talking about
Trader
retail. Yeah.
You were talking to
He was
Aubuchon
also-
Hardware at one time, weren't you?
Aubuchon was one of them. Yep.
Yeah,
And they said,
Yeah, just, I mean, I don't know, my own thing, I was talking to the guy from Nashua today, and they're all like, oh, form-based, everything. But it's very specific, it may be form-based for the downtown
Hmm.
is more appropriate, I think, than reform. My own personal thing, I mean, we had the form-based thing, and the dollar store went in and said, we can get around that by doing this, that, and the
well,
other.
and Chidburg was also kind of playing with light industrial also.
Yeah, mixed use.
Like mixed use light industrial.
Yep.
That didn't fit into where they wanted to put it, did not fit into the form base where we had set it up, which meant they would have had to have gotten a variance. And they just, I mean, but you're right, the access was the biggest thing there.
Well, Lori Bliss Hill, you know, she's got that new
Right.
piece of land that we helped her create with our public safety complex. And you know, it's a little bit of a burden trying to figure out how to navigate that. You know?
okay, well, I'm not proponent of form-based in that application, but just curious with what you'd see. So, I mean, I can see that purple section here having a very different business regulation than the pink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And the step further I want to take is I can also see Main Street having very different regulations than pink.
Absolutely, because we want to maintain the small business character of Main Street,
The village feel.
the village, yeah.
So-
Rather than the, 12,000 cars a day drive by on Route 4.
Well, and then if you mentioned a public forum and getting feedback, I think we need to have some degree of, we need to show them something.
Here's an idea, what do you think? Here's two ideas, what do you think? You know,
Somehow we need to
yeah,
Yeah,
come to some conclusions, because I think we know. I really do think we know what pulse of the community is on this topic. I mean, we've been debating it for years. You just finished a master plan.
right.
I think we could present something that would generally be acceptable and we'd just be walking through the detail.
I think this is the kind of thing that we work out in detail with the regional planning people as part of the HOP grant.
Well, this has nothing to do with Bleakley housing, but
Well, we wrote the HOP grant to include all of Route 4. So if it's housing or commercial, the two are intertwined. And we need to have commercial in order to attract the housing.
and we want those, all those commercial areas to also be mixed use, so that would be residential.
I think
That's scattered.
That's the big piece.
I think that's the key as far as that goes. But I think you will find that most people like that want that, would like mixed use. Mixed use also encourages more attractive homes.
Now,
Uh,
can we define what the village boundary is? Tonight,
Today,
we put some ideas on the board before. And I think it would be helpful to focus in on what that really is.
you wanna take a marker and be our scribe?
You could start with what's in section B there.
Yeah,
That sent out some, right, and that's a straw man.
The what?
But the wording in section B of CB district,
Oak Grove Street too.
I,
Main Street and Blacksmith Alley between High and Oak Grove.
he asked what the village is, not.
Not what-
Yeah, I mean, I would.
For the village, I'd say north of the lake is access to water or sewer.
Are you thinking of, when you say village, are you thinking of your third proposed zoning district?
Mm,
The village.
Or,
Village.
because the village may include some of what is CB. If you're asking that question in the context of what is the third zoning district that you're thinking of, it just might be a different answer than we would give you for the village.
Right,
Everything north of the lake with water and sewer.
Or water or sewer,
water or sewer.
because some have one, not the other.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, I do.
Yes, we did. We went through an exercise before. We had it up here on the board. We seemed to kind of.
Yeah.
More or less agree that's sort of what it ought to look like.
Yeah,
Should I put that up? Somebody erased all.
Sure.
lines.
So it
We
goes
need
up,
something to stand on.
put it up again.
yeah, goes up to the Westcott Road there.
Well, on the GIS, you can just call up water sewer lines.
It doesn't give you the accuracy. you need.
What?
Bill, I need to keep it here.
Watch out, Phil.
Well, can you put on the GIS map for water sewer lines?
I mean, basically, it would be the area that we defined as quarter acre because it's on sewer.
I know where they are. There's
Oh,
Plus,
significant
plus,
water.
plus water.
right.
Is that the water line?
Water and sewer.
Which is
Well,
which?
Is it both? Cause I'm just saying blue.
No, this is not water line. No. We just happen to have a blue mark.
No, we're talking about on the map here.
Yeah, those are water, but anywhere that has water has.
Has sewer.
Sorry, anywhere that has sewer has water,
Right.
but not everywhere that has water has
Has
sewer.
sewer.
So the water lines are the marks, that's
I
it.
mean, the sewer is the more critical for density.
But if you're talking about what is provided by services, and yes, right, anything with either one, I would say is in.
So what we had talked about months ago,
There actually are people in sewer who don't have water.
we followed the,
Lord blesses. She's on well.
the Route 4 district, CB district would be within the village.
Right.
And so you're using the rail trail here as a boundary. You come to the river, you drop down Westcott Road. Now the plan development does not have sewer. It all has water.
Right.
Yeah.
You go down, Shaker Hill Road at some point. There are a couple of, well,
The sheep farm is where the sewer.
these lots here all have town water.
Right.
So you would include those, and this gets a little squirrely right here, you know, where you make the break, but everything on Lake Street. You go all the way down to the lake edge, is that part of the lake zone? Yes, eventually, but we're not gonna deal with that now. You know, it comes down to here. You follow the lake around, you pick up all these areas, there you go. And so this area, the village, in terms of residential, primarily residential,
Mhm.
you would have a set of regulations that deal with that. And we talked about everything from maybe just eliminating minimum lot size, for instance, if you have town water and sewer. And base the
Always should meet the setbacks.
density and setbacks.
Setbacks.
The state may do that anyhow.
They are talking about that, that's right.
Right.
And then you've got, you know, within this section, you've got what you might do for Route 4, the CB district and Main Street in terms of business stuff. And I don't know, is that an overlay on the village? Or not? Maybe,
Yeah. It could
It's
be,
a question,
it could be
right?
structured either way.
but that would leave these pieces over here, you know, up top Drawbridge Hill, down the other side in the R1.
Yep.
Yep.
And down here, same thing. I pointed out to Dave, well, that's kind of an aside. This would all be R1 up to, I think maybe that red boundary there is where it turns to R3.
Yep.
You know, yeah, so this would all stay R1. But for now. Right,
Is that Jones Hill Road? Is that the red line?
yes.
I think it is.
And
Yeah.
And I think that this boundary should follow the lot lines where possible. Instead of being an arbitrary distance from a center line of a road or something like that. There are a couple places where you just can't quite do that, but it's pretty convenient corner. Catty corners from one lot corner to another to make it clear. We don't have to have a meets and bounds kind of zoning district. So. We need to decide what that's gonna be. And then we think and start crafting what the rules are gonna be.
Right.
Well, we need to let the general public in on the decision-making process.
We're not deciding, just, we've got to lead. And I think we need to determine what we think
We put this up
boundaries should be.
and we say to the public, what do you think of this?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Here's some ideas. What do you think of this or this?
Well, you know, I would
Give
modify
them
it.
three options or
You
whatever.
can't leave it open,
No.
because if you leave it open, you get 50 different ideas.
Yeah,
And you never get any place after that. See, you didn't listen to me. This is what I said I wanted.
Been waiting for your action.
Oh, I'm just,
Lay it on.
why? that is the area that's served by utilities. So,
Yes,
but the character of that area is very different from one end of it to the other. The
Yeah.
Route 4 area is completely different than
Right.
Maple and May Street up to the Canaan Town line.
Yeah.
Right.
Completely different.
Right.
The Main Street area is completely different than Route 4 and completely different than, out Shaker Hill Road.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so to some extent, there's a lot more nuance in that little blue polygon.
oh, yeah,
And so how to construct a coherent zoning framework around that probably has to reflect the different character of
Yeah.
the different
Yes.
areas
Yeah.
within there.
and then.
And that could be
3 separate overlays.
three, at least
Yeah, yeah,
three.
one- Why make them, just make them separate districts. You
Village
write the
one,
regs
yeah.
to the districts.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think that's probably, but yes, within that will be
Right,
a series of different districts, however,
yeah,
the Main Street area itself, which has its own character and its own dimensional challenges and its own,
right,
and then the Route 4 area, which wants to develop as a commercial strip. That's how it wants to develop.
Yeah.
We want housing and mixture of uses there. It wants to develop as a commercial strip. How are we gonna envision that in the future? And then the rest of that area outside of Main Street and outside of the Route 4 East area
go
becomes,
up to Westcott
is
Road, it's,
far more residential.
it's a single,
It is more of a.
It's single and you may allow, I don't think you're gonna allow, you want to allow multifamily because it's already built out anyways,
So this,
but you
Yeah.
might allow
So
duplex or,
I disagree with that because right now, the biggest challenge for investing in a property in Enfield Village is the cost of construction.
Yeah.
The only way to make those numbers work is to have multifamily.
Right.
So one of the challenges of the last 30 years is houses have become more and more unmaintained, to be polite. And a lot of it's because there's no value in it for the homeowner because they can't do anything else with it and it's so expensive to
well, we
make.
saw it tonight. He's gotta get a special exception to do
Right.
multifamily.
Right, right.
When
Right.
everybody around him is already multifamily.
And I don't think you can do a zone for every area that has a certain character now. It's just impractical, because everyone's gonna, so I like that large zone where you would allow lots of stuff, then maybe there's exceptions within overlays. But the other piece is, like out where Dan lives now, there's no
Right.
sewer, but if somebody wanted to bring sewer there, and that were to somehow work out, if they're in the village district, that would be allowed, and then their
Right.
zoning would allow them to do different things.
Yeah.
But if you say that's a separate district, then even if they bring the sewer out, they can't do those different things.
Yeah.
And I think we wanna allow things based on what is possible, not necessarily, not necessarily based on what was done in the past.
yeah, and it's part of that needs to be driven by what the public tells us, because
Yeah.
if you went up Maple Street out near the Canaan Town line or May Street out near the Canaan Town line and proposed some sort of substantial non-residential development out there, it would in all likelihood not be very well received, I'm guessing.
We got one of them.
It would not.
Non-residential.
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 Yes.
I.e. commercial.
Maybe a large scale residential one is not well received.
But I'm talking about non-residential in that area.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the end of Main Street is commercial on the Canaan side.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, and there is, at-home businesses, I live on Maple Street, up the road from me, there's a number of folks who run businesses out of their homes there. So I think commercial activity is already happening there. You don't wanna,
At home businesses, yeah.
well, one's a very nice fellow who drives a big old truck and, he's got a big garage in the back and it's a great thing that he's there.
Large Mechanical's been on Shaky Hill Road
Right.
for 25 years.
So as a person who lives on Maple Street, I would actually disagree. I think that having that sort of opportunity for people, that is part of the character of the area.
So I propose
that we put together a 3-person work group. Tackle this issue, bring it back to the board. So this is what the 3 of us think this maybe ought to look like. What do you guys think? And what that group would do, get in a car, drive around, take what you put down on paper and drive around and make sure it makes sense on the street. Walk around, whatever, but come up with that boundary. So we've got a starting point. Take further.
Who wants to be on that group? Jeff volunteers. Anybody else?
I'm happy to do it.
Eric, we need one more.
We drove that before and looked at it all.
Well, you should do this.
I'll do it.
All right. So, Eric, Tim, and Bill are going to work on this and report back to us in a month.
Maybe the next meeting, but yeah.
I mean,
Well, it's a month, cause I. won't be
the
here
next
for
meeting is
2
coming right up.
May 26th.
No, March 26th.
March 26th. Yeah, March 26th.
What happened to the March?
It's right around the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't, what date is the,
The 7th.
Bill just said he's not here next 2 weeks.
I'm not here the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, somebody
Well,
for.
all the more reason to push it off to the 26th of March.
Well, we gotta be careful, because it is the end of February. We've got nothing down on paper. Right? We've been here before. So. Just saying, we need to move ahead with things. Right or wrong, we need to get something on paper, and then we can start to play with it.
When do you leave town, Bill?
Tomorrow morning at 6 and I come back, the day of the vote.
Alright, so
I know.
4 a.m.
We can't avoid that, but
Where you going? Oh, we're driving down to Florida, coming back up through Texas.
so maybe,
Ohio.
is there somebody else who'd be interested? Because I mean, that's the other way to speed things up.
Anyone else want to volunteer?
Come on, Kurt.
I can't.
Whitney?
Yeah, I'll throw my name in.
All right, so Jim, Kurt,
Nice.
and Eric.
now, just in context here, we've agreed that we're not gonna screw around with any of the zoning district boundaries, right?
Which you guys are gonna focus on the area that outlined in blue tonight.
Well, yes, but as a board.
This is what we're doing.
Proposed zoning ordinance
This is
26, we're
two.
not gonna fool around with changing any of the other.
We are focusing in on that.
That's hot too.
Yes,
Yeah.
because those are the areas that have water and sewer.
Right.
Or.
Yeah.
And that's the way we wrote the grant. So they can't argue with us.
Thanks.
Okay,
Town website, you can pull it up.
moving right along.
I just wanted to hurry up on that and get it. Yeah.
Eric, have you finished the select board report?
Yes, I think the only other thing I'll say is, Rob is actually organizing a citizens academy that we have for the next year, and he can sort of speak to what that is, but that's gonna be a good opportunity for everybody in town to sort of learn about various town functions and departments and what happens, with town staff doing some of that stuff.
Okay, Rob, you wanna give your report?
Yeah, so I did meet with the select board last week, to, tell them about the idea for a citizens academy. It's not an idea that we came up with ourselves. It's something that we're lifting from other communities. I believe Lebanon has one that's been fairly successful. It's meant to be kind of like a little mini version of like Leadership of Valley or Leadership New Hampshire, but a sort of leadership, Enfield, to tell them about all the various functions of town government and to meet the people that are working for the town. And we proposed it. I think the select board was very supportive. There would be about 8 or 9 sessions, like once a month through starting in maybe April of this year, rolling through the end of the year. Planning and zoning, land use would be one night. Public works be one, public safety would be one. Town office, town hall functions would be one. Again, it's meant to sort of be like a little development program for people that are not necessarily familiar with their town. We're not looking to get those 30 people that are already super heavily involved in those sessions, but moreover to get people that have no exposure to the town. And we sort of pitched it as kind of like a developmental program for future board members to start familiarizing people with what their community or their town government does, how it works, and then maybe use that as a sort of cohort to draw from future board members and so forth. So that was a good meeting we had. There was, I think that's what started this whole conversation, discussion about parking. Let's see, what else? I was down today at the Housing Academy. They had a second session of the current cohort. There's gonna be another cohort. I will be getting you guys, we had a few people on this board, I think, that were interested in doing that, the next round. They invited me down today to speak as a Hop One participant. And had a really great conversation. I was on a little panel with a couple of other communities, including Nashua and Seabrook. Was very interesting to hear, what those other communities are up to. Obviously a little different than what we're up to here, but very educational and really good program that's sort of co-sponsored by New Hampshire Housing and Extension. And so there was a lot of communities that are Hop2 recipients this round that asked a lot of really good questions. Obviously, we've got May deadline to get our community feedback plan outlined for them. So we'll be working on that with the Upper Valley Regional Planning. I did send this in the email reminder to you guys. I don't know if we're gonna have time to discuss it tonight. We should probably
We can
at least
a
touch on
little
it,
bit, yeah.
as Renee is ready to get us signed on, and we have to have Ed Morris sign this, if you guys are receptive. Any questions for me?
Okay. Next legislative report. I just touch on a couple of things. The state energy policy is now leaning towards reliable, on-demand, and firm resources, which basically favors fossil fuels over renewables. And also kind of kick the supports out from offshore wind. Let's see what else. A bill to prohibit possession of firearms at a polling place.
Could I interrupt just a moment?
What?
Could I interrupt just a moment?
You could.
I appreciate the legislative report, but I think it really needs to be focused entirely on only those things that might deal with land use.
Okay.
Yeah, and we want to be careful about not, yes, expressing opinions on things, just, the factual stuff. Please.
In that case, have nothing else to add.
Hey, sorry.
I know there's some bills from housing that went through on the consent calendar. The bill that I worked on the amendment for, a bipartisan amendment to require people serving on planning and zoning to recuse themselves from one or the other when they're acting in a quasi judicial role. And I think that's about it. There are some housing bills that will be coming before the legislature, I believe, next week. And we'll see where those go. So next we have meeting minutes. Anyone have any corrections, questions?
I found one thing.
Go ahead, Linda.
The only thing I found was that I joined on Teams. It says you did, but it doesn't say that I did.
Oh,
Were you there at the start of the meeting?
I was
Oh,
a
she
few
should've.
minutes, I was 2 or 3 minutes late. My watch was off from regular time.
I'll double check the report.
Florida time.
okay. I think we can make that correction pretty easily.
It's not that I'm not listed as being there. I am. I was on Teams.
Okay,
It said David's on Teams and it has Linda Jones as attending, but I also was on Teams.
okay. Make that change, Whitney?
Yeah.
Motion on the minutes?
Can I make one other
Sure.
tweak? Line 104 says, Mr. Taylor has worked with the New England Planning Association. I think that should read New Hampshire Planners Association. That's it.
I move we approve the minutes as amended.
Do I have a second?
Second,
Motion made and seconded. Roll call vote, starting with Linda. How do you vote?
I,
Eric,
Aye.
Dan,
aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Nate,
Aye.
was there any alternates? No,
No.
okay, I'll vote aye. Minutes are approved as amended. So we have 20 minutes in which we can get into the top 2 grant. And a lot of this, I guess, is boilerplate.
The Exhibit A is the most significant aspect of this contract.
Right.
And I thought it did reflect what we talked about.
Yeah.
At the last meeting. The task 2.2, I think we should already be trying to hone in on a date for that and be able to have and announce a date and location at town meeting, or have something, make people aware at town meeting. I'm actually, because I'm a planning nerd, I think it's gonna be a lot of fun, task 2.2. I think participating in that forum is gonna be a lot of fun. I think that blue polygon, as I sit and think about that blue polygon, is a fascinating polygon. I think all 9 of us, if we went around the table, probably have a slightly different opinion and ideas about what should happen or not happen within that blue polygon, and I think the public's gonna have a lot of ideas as well. I think task
Should be
2.2
fun.
is gonna be a lot of fun. I think that's the fun of planning, is looking at things like that and hearing what the public has to say and trying to digest that and develop something that reflects the vision of the public. So I would say, I think from my perspective, this draft contract looks good, and I would say, let's try to work with the RPC as quickly as possible to hone in on a date
Mhm.
and location, and be prepared to start the outreach, you know, at town meeting when we have the captive audience there and can get them information of hold the date and time for that forum.
Sounds good. For the 5% of town that attends town meeting.
No.
Do we know if the,
1% still in this.
do we know if the planning commission is, are they, did they start on the audit?
They probably won't start till they have an executed contract.
Yeah,
So are,
Contract been executed?
No, it doesn't look like it. I've got it here.
Has it been
It's got it here.
signed?
No, we
It's-
wanted you guys.
yeah, it's up to us to
Oh, it's
approve.
up to
Yeah.
you. Okay.
We were gonna do it with a subcommittee, if you remember. But she didn't get it to us till late last week, so I figured 3 days, we can have you guys look at it all together right now. So
I just got one question, and it's probably their boilerplate, which is on 8 disputes. Why would it be a Sullivan County Court, not Grafton County Court?
question.
Yeah, that's definitely boilerplate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they pulled it off one of their other ones.
Yeah, Grafton.
So
can
that,
ever make that change?
that needs to be changed. Any other changes in order? Somebody want to make a motion to approve the top 2 contract with the regional planning?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second,
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Dan. We'll do a roll call, starting with Linda.
Aye.
Linda says aye. Eric,
Aye.
Dan,
aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Nate,
Aye.
I vote aye. Contract is approved.
Can we think a little bit about the forum and what date and, you know, should we look at a Saturday morning? Should we look at a weekday evening? Should we, you know, what, and what would be our preference and when? And then, you know, maybe give the regional planning commission some guidance of, hey, look for a Saturday in late April or early May, or look for a week, you know, a Wednesday evening or a Friday evening or whatever the case may
On
be.
that, is any part of Whitney Hall gonna be available after town meeting?
Know what that's the third floor Whitney Hall status is.
I don't, I know there's some, work being done to, get estimates for sound.
Yeah.
And video stuff, but I'm not sure what the timeline is like. It's really fine, I mean.
Yeah.
Obviously, for us, right now, the best spot is our community building.
Yep.
Yeah.
Although we did have a nice Eva Town of Enfield event last week at Shaker Museum, they were very reasonable. They charged us $75 for the rental, and that's really nice space.
Yeah, 'cause I think the time is gonna be based on what's actually physically available,
Yeah,
as far as date and time, because you need the space to be open at that point. So,
if we do a Saturday, we want to see if we can get a Saturday where there's a farmer's market that day.
I don't think the farmer's market's coming back this year.
Okay, then we don't even have to ask that question.
Not at all,
Well,
really.
and that would be late May anyway.
Okay,
We
so
probably
that's too
want to
late.
wait before that.
Okay, so,
I think the thing you want to avoid is vacation week. You don't want to do anything.
right, which is.
Vacation week is the 17th, I believe.
It is from the Saturday, the 12th
Oh,
to
the 12th.
Sunday, the 20th.
Yes,
So it includes the day you said, yeah.
yes. I knew it was around.
When is the Easter holiday? Is
That I don't-
it within that?
Easter looks like it's the 20th. No, wait, is that right?
Yeah,
Yes, it is.
yeah,
So
Well, it's
we,
late.
we don't want to do it.
so we're
On Easter
probably
weekend.
looking at like the 27th. Saturday or something.
Wanna do
For
it
Saturdays in April, you're looking at either the 5th or the 26th.
26th,
I think the 5th is probably too soon,
Yeah.
so that would
Yeah.
put us at the 26th.
26th,
Is Saturday preferable? Saturday,
so,
yeah,
I think so.
I think so, morning or afternoon.
It's hard to get people
probably more,
after work.
yeah.
The 26th looks like it's currently available all day on the recreation calendar for community building.
What day
How
was
about,
that Main
uh,
Street Forum on?
Shaker?
What day was it?
The acoustics there are just so much better.
Are you talking about the planners conference?
No.
Yeah, we can probably find a location.
The Main Street Forum was a weekday evening.
It was a Thursday.
Very well attended.
That was.
I thought it was. For a weekday, yeah.
Turn around. Going through. At that thing I was at today, they said, you know, they were all over the place as to where to go, but they worried about weekday evenings with parents. It's a tough time for them.
Yeah, that's why I brought my daughter.
Yeah, yeah.
Still this Saturday.
Yeah, weekday evenings with parent, it's tough.
Yeah.
Two
Yeah.
kids, you know, you're trying to get them bathed and-
Homework,
and fed
dinner.
and done their homework and ready for bed and, yeah, it's hard to do that if you're at a meeting from 6 to 8.
I like this Saturday.
All right.
9 to. What?
Yeah, but.
Either 9 to 12 or 10 to 12, something like that.
Too busy.
You want to do a full morning or 2 hours.
I'd say full morning. I mean, we could get into a really good discussion.
We could use the time if the forum started to peter out, we could use the time for a working session.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it's available all day,
April 26th.
set it up as 9 to 12. It may roll over to something else. It may roll over to 1 o'clock if there's enough people who have other ideas that it gives you the ability to go longer where on a weekday evening, you're pretty much locked into 2 hours.
Shaker Museum also doesn't have any published events that Saturday, so.
Okay, let's see if we can lock that room in.
Would rather
want
do
it to be in
community
the
building?
village.
Yeah.
Shaker, I think.
I think, well, so I just prefer to have it in the
In
village.
the village.
Yeah. And I will
That's what
talk
we're talking
to
about.
Ed to see if we can get the 3rd floor Whitney Hall ready.
Yeah, there's a Shaker Forum that
That would be nice. I
It
mean,
would be very nice.
even if we have to bring in portable sound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway,
So can we hold the community building on the calendar and then,
Absolutely.
and then?
Do it all the time.
Yeah, okay.
I can book it multiple.
Yeah.
I do think you're more likely to get people who are in the village to walk there.
Yeah.
Than to drive out to.
Yeah, that's true. I think also if we can get it into Whitney Hall,
Yeah.
people will wanna come just
Yeah.
to see what.
No, that would be the ideal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a draw just
Itself.
itself, yeah.
And sell it as a forum on the future of the village.
On urban redevelopment.
Okay,
Did that.
Let's see who shows up.
Right, so Saturday, April 26th, 9 to 12, tentatively at the community building, maybe if the stars align, Whitney Hall.
yeah,
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
I'll put those.
Good.
Awesome.
Eric and I have one more.
Hey, Eric, you got another item. Eric, let Eric tell us what the item
I
is.
forget what it is.
He's thinking that we will share.
The look, yeah.
Me?
I'm gonna put you on the spot,
That's all right.
the draft.
Oh.
Zoning ordinance.
Oh, beyond what we did before?
No, just
Okay.
what we did before.
Yeah, so did that get sent out?
I don't think so.
I didn't see it.
Oh, okay. Well, we had put together a draft of, a format, basically.
Yeah.
And I took our existing R1 and just translated it over into it. It was just to say what it would look like if we
Mhm.
had the exact same
Sure.
stuff. I'm assuming, that-
Yeah.
So I don't know if how people felt about that draft. It was sent out a while ago, I think. About that format overall or whatever.
Yeah, don't. You probably haven't read it, and don't bother.
Yeah.
All right,
Best.
let's move that to our next meeting and put that on the agenda.
Okay.
And Rob, will you distribute it again, please?
let me,
Just so it's
let us send you a new, fresh version, so make sure you got the right one.
Sounds good. Love it.
Yeah.
Okay. Any new business?
Not new business, but do we know of any hearings on the next agenda coming down the pipeline?
Not for our next meeting, no.
Okay.
I haven't seen anything yet because we haven't had deadline for the second meeting in March.
Yeah.
So I haven't seen anything. Actually, no, I take that back. We do have one.
Okay.
For the second meeting in March. There is a application from Sandy Chunard. She's the widow of Doug Evans. She's gonna do a subdivision up on I want to say Oak Hill.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I do
the
have
first meeting in March
Be a work
is a
session.
work session.
Yep.
Or could be. a
Yeah.
work
Yeah,
session.
could be a work session.
Will be.
So can we
Get the,
have Upper Valley
yeah,
maybe come and we can. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'm sure Renee would absolutely.
Okay.
good,
So we could actually send her the draft as well.
That'd be awesome.
yeah.
I'll communicate with her tomorrow because we're obviously, now that we've got your blessing on the contract, we'll execute that. She's just got to make that one change with Sullivan County.
Mhm.
And then I'll get Ed to sign. Awesome.
All right. Any other
Yes.
new business from the board?
Well, I don't know if it's new, but, the board notebooks. We need to update those. With all the customary stuff, but also I think we should include a copy of the planning board handbook that we were sent the link to, printed version in there.
Isn't that in here?
No. And, yeah,
It's in mine.
well, you printed one.
What's the date on yours?
That's the point.
Oh, 2018.
Yeah.
2018, yeah,
I need an updated copy.
yeah.
Yeah, I think we all do.
Yeah.
And I gave my notebook back to Rob the last time we met. Maybe you want to do the same and he can update everything and then bring the new notebooks.
I wonder if we should wait until after town meeting, because there'll be some changes,
Right.
hopefully to the zoning ordinance.
Good point.
And that way Rob can get them done in one fell swoop rather than have to do it twice.
Yep. Good
Sounds
point.
good.
Can you make like a single PDF document of all of that? I would prefer an electronic copy if it's possible.
Yeah, me too.
Okay,
You can sort. Keyword sort, find stuff quickly.
I like my hard copy.
Well, that too.
Yeah. Anything else?
Any public
I
comment?
see no members of the public,
Online, anybody?
so in that
Online,
case,
anybody online?
I don't see anybody online.
No, we'll get off.
Move, we adjourn.
All right, I hear a motion to adjourn. Who seconds? Who seconded? Nate. All right. Linda, you wanna adjourn?
That's a yes.
That's a yes. Eric?
Aye.
Diane? Phil? Tim? Nate?
Bye.
David? Yes,
Yes.
we are adjourned at 8:24. Yay.